right? But if something goes wrong, finding a way to, down the line, make it go right again through constant adjustments, through recognizing what's going your way and what you need to shift. And so that's what we're going to see in 5 games. We've got so much great action coming for you. I'm going to kick it off. Let's get to your casters, ladies and gentlemen. It's the lovely Fallout and Onset who will be taking you through game 1 here to kick off our ALGS number 4.
Rain Day Hot Sick, thank you so much for a great intro and pre-show. And that is right, Fallout here joined for the very first time with the one and only Onset. Onset, it is great to have you back on this broadcast, my friend. We missed you since Poland and Sweden. How's it feel to be back, my friend?
It feels amazing, man. And what a region, an opportunity to cast as a first game. It's so unpredictable. I think the only thing we can predict is the fact that it will be unpredictable. You're looking at some of the teams, John, that haven't even made it through to the final. Some huge names already, like VP, North, Luminosity, Weigers, Gambit, the winners of online tournament number 3. They went out in the quarterfinals. They didn't even make it through to the semifinals, which shows the depth of talent that there really is in Europe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A variety of teams that you expect to be here that are not. And on the flip side, that opens up an opportunity for teams like No Weaver and a couple other squads that we have not seen necessarily just yet that are performing for a very first time in an online tournament finals. This is online tournament finals number 4, so we've had 3 tournaments before this to kind of establish our top teams. But that's what you love about the open tournament format. Anyone, an amateur, a new player, and the like, can work their way up as a top player, can qualify for this grand final, and it's awesome to see that shaking up on the European side of things. It looks like game number 1 is underway. 20 squads still left, so we have not seen any early aggression or griefing coming through as we're currently on board of Alliance. We saw the intro of Hockey's earlier and the leadership he shows.
Yeah, and a little bit of a team change here as well on Alliance. You see IPN coming in, and he's actually going to be jumping on the Caustic, which has kind of been the signature pick for this Alliance squad, and has obviously brought them success along the way. So very interested to see how he's going to slot into this lineup and see if they can keep that kind of dominance up. But it seems like a regular drop for them off the start. And one thing that I did want to highlight is, like they were talking about on the desk beforehand, this first game, I feel like it really does set the standard for every single team. There's going to be some contesting going on for drop spots. There's going to be some confusion. And we were lucky enough to speak to EMF, which is one of the players who's been involved with the pro scene for a little bit in Europe. And he was saying he's expecting some carnage off the start with drops here, with teams contesting each other. However, looking at the top right-hand side of our screen, we can still see, like you mentioned, 20 squads left. So it looks like everyone's kind of found a way to be comfortable on the map.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Big shout out to the EMEF from the UK, coach of pro team, who's competing in these online tournaments consistently, and also a huge contribution to the community. And our talent squad is he's able to give a lot of great insight from the insider perspective. So thank you for putting together some great documentation for us, helping us understand where teams are going to be dropping. As mentioned, an expectation there will be early game fights or a lot of confusion because there are so many new teams in this online tournament lobby that maybe aren't used to playing against each other. But nothing so far, as it looks like teams are pretty content just splitting loot. And that'll happen often. You'll see 2 or 3 teams drop Skyhook, one, 2, or 3 teams fragment east and west, split the loot, not wanting to fight early on, not trying to allow RNG and maybe a bad weapon drop off the rip to affect their game, and instead opting for late game play. And that's what we're going to see so far. Of course, as I say that, it looks like a bit of a fight, or at least some nades being thrown here on the fragment side of things with an early game push from Red Reserve.
Yeah, it looks like an early game push might be coming in, and this is going to be a battle for decent positioning as well. We've had the opportunity to see not only the first circle, but we've seen the Pathfinder passive coming in as well to show us that second circle, and it is going to be around the sort of fragment east area, maybe just pulling outside of that. So while this battle goes down, it's not just a battle for kill points at this point. This could be a battle that takes someone into the top 5 potentially towards the end of this first game.
And you got to be kidding me what we're seeing right now from Odd Fluffy. The aggression coming through single-handedly, taking on an entire team. Finally, rotation from his teammates are going to come through, and it looks like Red Reserve with some early aggression is going to pay off. Odd Fluffy with, actually may have been Hyarka with an L-Star melting 2 members of the opposing team. And that's going to be our first squad eliminated. Ice has been broken here in online tournament number 4.
Yeah, first squad down, like you mentioned, and to be honest with you, it's a ballsy play to make in game number 1 as well, to be aggressive on a team who has a strong position potentially towards the end zone as well. You lose that, you go out of the game with 0 points, and that in the first game is really not a position you want to be in. So to take that fight early on, I love the aggression that they've just shown there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Red Reserve, another one of those squads, obviously a big reputable organization. Big shout out to the Red Reserve organization supporting European competitive Apex, but we haven't seen a lot of them in the online tournament finals. So with their debut here, at least from what I've seen, a strong start. They pick up 3 points from 3 kills, and guess what? They're going to get all of the loot of the fragment side of things. That's a good position for them. And again, it was all thanks to the Watson, Odd Fluffy playing with ultra aggression, recognizing I have an L-star, I'm better than you, I'm going to take that 1 versus 2, no problem.
Yeah, it's not just that as well. I mean, look at their loot as well. You're looking across the board and you had gold armor, you got 2 purples, you got decent weaponry up close as well. And put that into perspective of, you know, now that they've got a central position in zone, they're good. They don't have to do anything. They can just wait for everyone else to move towards zone, try and pick off some kills. And when it even gets towards the end game, they're probably going to be thinking long game here, John. They've got the weaponry to work with that as well as the shielding.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Flipping over to a team we've seen quite a bit of in competitive Apex, going all the way back to the preseason invitational in Krakow, Poland last year, is Cooler. Sign, of course, joining that roster since that tournament, and has been playing consistently with that Cooler squad ever since. Looks like Triumph is going to be tagged up over back at Fragment, so a continued fight, and it's going to be Red Reserve again. They are not letting go of the gas pedal here, as Odd Fluffy with a Peacekeeper now is going to take out Graceful. Red Reserve continues to play with the utmost aggression.
Yeah, love it from Red Reserve as well. And I think the fact that they won that early game fight in such a convincing manner as well, that, as I mentioned previously, they've got the armor, they've got the weaponry. If someone threatens them and they see that they've got blue shields or less, why not take the fight? Why not be aggressive and get extra kill points on the board? A fantastic start here from Red Reserve. And it really does look like they've been looking forward to this game one almost as much as we have.
Yeah, and they are put on a show right now with, again, what might be their debut in online tournament finals. I haven't seen a lot of Red Reserve in the grand finals. And I love the point you just made. It's about resource management, right? If you recognize that your resources, and that means your health, that means your weapons, that means what you have at your disposal, is greater or superior to the team against you, why not take that fight? In retrospect, if you play the positioning well and if you play the fight right, your resources are greater. You should have the advantage in that fight, and you should be able to take that advantage. And Red Reserve's doing a great job of that. Just recognizing you have an L-Star early game in close quarters fights, that's an advantage. Recognizing you have higher shield than the other team, the point that you made, is another advantage. Red Reserve's doing such a good job taking their advantages and picking up 4 kill points already in a first place spot right now. Now the question is, can they make it to late game?
Yeah, just to kind of emphasize on that point and expand on it even more, think about when they're taking these fights in the game as well. These fights are happening within the first circle closing, which means that there's not going to be a lot of teams around to potentially third-party them as well. Teams are still going to be rotating from their original drop spots, moving in towards Fragment East, and you've got to remember, some of those teams won't have the Pathfinder beacon as well, so some of those teams are going to be still thinking about, are we going to shadow a team who we can see with a Pathfinder to move towards a circle? Are we going to kind of guess from our game knowledge about where this is going to end? And as we see the overhead map, you can kind of look across and see there's a few teams at the moment who don't seem 100% convinced about where that end circle is going to go. So taking those early fights when there isn't that third-party opportunity shows great opportunism from this Red Reserve team.
Yeah, spot on, and perhaps a little bit of luck as well, as they are, to your point, they're not running a Pathfinder, but the third ring is going to be right on them in Fragment East, so they are well positioned, not only for 4 points already in early game aggression, but to make it to late game if they can play their positioning correct. You know, keep in mind, them not having that Pathfinder meant they didn't know where that ring is going to go, but it did end up right on them. Great position, plus you have a Gibraltar, plus you have a Watson, you have a lot of defense, a lot of opportunity to post up and take control of some solid real estate in Fragment East for that late game ring, as Red Reserve's in a good spot, currently on board with Myth, playing over towards the Geyser, and it looks like they spot someone and the rotations are going to come through. They're just going to post up in this Geyser for now.
Yeah, Myth, we should talk about these guys a little bit, because we talked about some of the bigger names that aren't there, but Myth are kind of a team that's, in my opinion, maybe gone under the radar a little bit. They've made it to the finals of every single online tournament in Europe so far, and I don't think anyone else has that accolade to kind of show and put up on their wall as far as these lobbies are concerned. So definitely a team to watch as the tournaments roll on. The question now is, now they're qualifying for these tournaments, can they improve their placements every single time that we see them?
Yeah. 4 straight online tournament qualifier finishes. Only team in Europe to do it. Of course, we have a few teams on the North American side that have done it, TSM being one of them. So big shot to Myth for some consistency, but Amaz & Co. currently in their situation, not the best shield to their name, not the best resources, so they shouldn't want to try and pick fights here. That's why they're not going to take that fight against Alliance. However, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place, as it looks like they're going to be sandwiched here at least a little bit through the caves to their right, and now they're going to be forced to either make a decision. Do we post up or do we push towards Alliance? Because they're going to have to. They're not in the ring right now, so they're going to have to make a decision here momentarily.
Yeah, they're going to have to make it quickly as well, John, because there's only around 20 seconds or so left on this ring before it closes. And as we all know, if you're fighting through a choke point, it's kind of an all-or-nothing play, right? If you're moving through the vault area there towards the outer side of Fragment East, if you lose that battle, you're done for. You're not going to be able to get out and rotate away. So it looks like they've made the decision to maybe take a safer route here, which in a game 1 is absolutely no surprise to me. It wouldn't be a surprise to me in a game 4, to be honest with you. So smart decision here coming in from the squad, and hopefully it pays off for them.
Yep, agreed. It looks like Alliance did rotate as well, so they're going to get a free rotation, at least momentarily in a decent spot. But they're on the edge of that ring. Strong chance that the next ring will not favor them, so they're going to have to continue that rotation. Meanwhile, on board with Samsung Morning Stars, a team that is very aggressive early as well. We know that from watching past gameplay of Lemic and co. Let's see how they play this now, currently sitting at a choke point of themselves. And here's another squad, Na'Vi, that we did not see in online tournament number 2, I believe, but they made it back in online tournament number 3. A team that's been competing since Krakow and since Poland. Of course, the Na'Vi esports organization as a whole is one of the most storied and medaled organizations that we've seen in esports, especially on the European and FPS side of things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Na'Vi, you hear that name, you say that name, you expect it to be in a final, right? I mean, the history that is with that organization. And to be honest, with some of the placements that we have seen from this Na'Vi lineup, it was always a little bit of a surprise to see them not make it through to the finals. However, as you say, John, have made it through here, but I think they're going to be wanting to prove a little bit to themselves in this final as well and kind of reassert some dominance. And one of the questions I had coming into this European final today, is there going to be a team who kind of steps up, a little bit like North America, where we've had kind of a pack pull away at the top, and show us some consistency across the next couple of tournaments? Because that's what's missing at the moment, as we do have the opportunity to see that overhead map for just a few seconds. And as you say, it looks like these teams who are set up in Fragment East at the moment, they're going to have a pretty good time with it.
Yeah, man, that's a good call out. I believe we've seen a different European team win each online tournament, and then that team that won, sometimes not qualifying for the one after, Alliance being one of them that won online tournament number 2, but did not make it back for online tournament number 3 to the grand finals, I believe. So some a little more inconsistency on the European side of things. Perhaps that just says how evenly skilled these teams are, whereas in North America, TSM just continues to dominate. Another team that we thought was maybe that TSM of Europe, Luminosity Gaming, back-to-back now, 2 times they have not qualified for a grand final. So we're hopefully looking forward to LG making their return in future online tournaments, but they will not be featured in this one as Desu and co.
Yeah, I mean, a surprise to everybody. Not only once, but, 2-3 times now, we're not seeing Luminosity in the finals. And it comes to the point where it's like, well, why are we talking about Luminosity? Let's give we should be talking about the teams that are making these finals and are putting in performances, because Luminosity are not, quite simply. I hate to be the bearer of bad news to Luminosity fans, but those guys really aren't having a great time of it at the moment. But back to our game at the moment, and I want to talk a little bit about holding this choke, because it's an interesting conversation that actually was brought up between Jameson, Bravo, and myself last night. We were watching a little bit of Jameson reviewing some of the European play, and we were kind of saying, people aren't holding chokes maybe as much as they used to, and we were kind of having a discussion about why that might be. And there was discussion between, the likes of the choke between Harvester and the choke, which leads on to Fragment. And, now that the map changes have been apparent and had a loss of tower, it's not as easy to control. However, still such a strong thing to do if you're not sure where that final circle is rotating, and you can catch teams on the rotation if you have that high ground advantage. So interested to see Samsung Morning Stars. They're holding down that choke and playing it a little bit old school.
Yeah, that's exactly right. High risk, high reward, right? You're going to have an opportunity to pick up some kills, but you're not going to get an early rotation. You're not going to claim your real estate late game. Meanwhile, Alliance, our former champions, in a world of hurt, 2 members down. Defensive bombardment comes out, but you got to think it is almost all but over for this Alliance squad. Can this last member alive some way, somehow? It's IPN, the newest addition to this team, as we did see Lowly replaced on this roster, quitting competitive Apex, but right now we'll see if the new member, IPN, can clutch up. Myth going to push up, get a kill on, I believe it is Weigers, who gets eliminated. Weigers, another team that performed well in online tournament number 2, did not make a return in number 3, and they are back here in number 4. Currently back on board with Myth, our most consistent team in Europe.
Yeah, Myth, as you say, one of the most consistent teams. And Oxbow, a man who is, no stranger to adversity as well. A little bit earlier in the year, towards the end of last year, had some health problems, and he's recovered obviously fantastically well, and super happy to hear that. And now he's back, he's competing, and as I say, part of a lineup here who really has been one of the most consistent teams in Europe. So shout out to those guys for what they've done so far.
Yeah, I believe former member of Powderpuff Bruvs, one of my favorite team names, by the way, of all time. Currently playing as a new member of the Smith squad.
That one, isn't it?
Yeah. And what a team you get to join. You know, this Myth team has been so consistent. Oxbow hasn't gotten credit as a top player in Europe, but I think finally has the squad and the opportunity to get that credit that he deserves. A very, very good individual player. And, of course, tackling some health issues early on this year and is still competing at the highest level. So kudos to him. Kudos to Oxbow. We'll see what he can do alongside this Myth squad.
Yeah, well, now we're going to see the circles start to close in, and 18 squads on this rotation will very, very quickly become around 10, 12, because we're seeing eliminations go down across the board now as we see another team going down as we jump back on top of Myth, and it looks like that circle is going to be ending on the little settlement just to the west of Fragment, which is there's not a lot of real estate to really be taken under here, so you're going to see a lot of teams maybe playing under the buildings, playing roofs, playing those rocks to the east of that little compound. So this is where things are going to get interesting. This is where your IGLs and your Wraiths are really going to have to make some moves.
Oh, look at this Pathfinder ultimate. It's going to get them high ground on the campsite over to the right of Fragment East. I think that was going to be placed. Keep in mind, 17 squads left, but a lot of rats, a lot of solos, as we've seen a lot of kills get picked up. Kuya was the last one that goes down. He was a former member of that Cadabralist squad that was so talented, now playing alongside Ad Hoc Gaming with Matafe and Co. So we'll keep an eye at the top right of your screen to see if any more knocks or eliminations will come through. But 17 squads might be a little bit deceiving with a lot of the solo players that are still alive. Looks like Kuya's back up.
Yeah. Yeah, Kuya's back up, and he is the new addition to this Ad Hoc Gaming squad, like you mentioned. And in my opinion, an improvement. This is a player who has played Watson a lot and isn't kind of adapting to the role. And he's kind of had a little bit of stability to this lineup. He's kind of keeping Matafe on the leash a little bit, and he gives them that anchor, which I think they might have missed a little bit in the past. But they're in a position they're going to be very happy with right now. They love to play edge of circle. They love to use that Gibraltar bubble to move in late. So Ad Hoc Gaming, even though they're kind of on the edge of zone right now, that's where they're comfortable. That's where they want to be.
Yep. Of course, big shot to Zerfer, former member of that squad. It's not a knock by any means to Zerfer and his capability, but it's just really more a tribute to what Kuya brings to a team. We've seen him make so many plays on that former Cadabralist squad. I think it's a great pickup, undoubtedly, for AHG, who performed very well last online tournament. We'll see what they can do here. 17 squads still alive, but still, you see a lot of knocks come through at the top right of your screen. The latest is going to be Cooler. All members of Cooler are starting to get knocked and eliminated. It looks like a big fight just went down on this rotation. The ring going to be closing in. Still 17 squads alive, which is hard to believe, but it's going to get crazy here in this late game with not a lot of cover.
Yeah, and you're seeing Gamers Origin here. They've kind of been forced out into the open. I think they might have expected maybe their building was just going to be able to squeak into the zone there, but they've been forced out now. And when this Gibraltar bubble drops, they are going to be forced to fight and possibly look for a rotation. You can see the portal going out as well to try and find them a safe spot into the zone. It looks like the portal might be good as well, but they're taking shots. He's actually going to have to back down here. So you're going to have to see Gamers Origin go huge and potentially win a big team fight to stay alive in this game.
As you're saying, going huge, looks like they're going to pick up a few kills using whatever cover that they possibly have. The portal's just going to put them in even more of a vulnerable position. So Navi, speaking about good positions, though, Navi's the one that's currently has high ground and has a great opportunity to just rain fire on teams that are rotating on the edge of the ring, pick up some kills long range. Navi, very well positioned for now, but they won't be in a spot for the next ring. They're going to have to rotate momentarily. But you got to think Navi's in a good spot here to secure themselves a late game finish.
Yeah, I completely agree. They love to take high ground. They love to have that opportunity to shoot down, and they've got Devotion in the back pocket as well, which, we've heard it in the intro, Devotions. They do a lot of damage. That's the nicest way I could put it. They really will wreck you, these map drops. So the Devotion, certainly a great weapon to have in hand towards the end game. And looking across, I mean, they are set up for success here. Looking at the weaponry, looking at the shielding, looking at the positioning, Navi really could be on for a big game one.
It's right, especially if they can avoid poke from teams that are already rotated in ring, which you see happening from behind them right now. So they're kind of fighting a two-front war, just trying to survive, trying to get as much damage as they can on their opponents that are on the ring, while they're also, it's almost like Inception, they're getting tagged up by folks that are deeper inside the ring. Meanwhile, Samsung Morningstar is going to pick up a few kills. That's a few that we've seen from them. So some early game aggression. We know that they're great at kind of griefing teams, playing aggressive. That's going to show. Right now, still IPN alive some way, somehow. As a Caustic puts him in a decent spot, but he's going to get tagged up significantly. Defensive bombardment comes in. He has no option but to try and push inside. IPN still somehow alive. You could breathe on him and he would get knocked, and he's going to heal up. Wow.
How is this man alive? Somehow the Caustic has stayed alive long enough to get some heals off, but the problem is here, he's got to push in, and somehow he's managed to do so. He's desperately dropping canisters here, John, to try and elongate his life, but little moves like that can go from a top 10 to a top 7 finish, and we know if you can stay alive for that extra few seconds, you can milk every single health point that you have. That can turn into points.
Unbelievable. We just saw outsiders who are barely hanging on by a thread inside one of the houses here next to the ring. a team with a lot of mechanical skill, kind of underrated is the general sentiment on them. They do very well in scrims. Outsiders, I believe, making one of their debuts here. I haven't seen a ton of them in online tournaments, so excited to see what Outsiders can do. You saw the squad of Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, another team that drops Fragment, who had some good learnings, and you saw Nasky tweeting after the last online tournament, I don't care what happens, we're going to start playing aggressive for Fragment East. We'll see, our Fragment West, wherever they drop. We'll see if that comes to fruition here.
Yeah, I mean, being aggressive on your drops, like Hot Sick was saying, if you think you're the better team, you need to bully that team off if you do get contested. You need to let them know that that's your home ground. That's where you're going to be setting up camp, and that if you want to drop there, you're welcome, but you're not going to pick up any points.
Spot on. And, you know, this squad, Stanny and co, are going to see a bubble. It's not theirs. Drop, I believe. So that's going to be right below them. We'll see if they try, as they're scattered on top of a team, they try to pick that fight. 6 squads remain. So many squads got eliminated on that last ring rotation. And guess who it is? It's Na'Vi, still in a good position, but they did take a casualty. So they have a decent high ground position playing with natural cover. They lost their Pathfinder. They don't have a Gibraltar. That's going to cost them here in this natural cover type of scenario. They're not going to have an opportunity to use that artificial cover for rotations.
Yeah, this is where 9imps is going to have to desperately try and find a portal into a safe spot to hopefully help them rat out into a decent placement here, because as you say, they've lost some of the mobility in that Pathfinder, which means they're not going to be able to zip around, they're not going to be able to get around quite as easily, as we do see a zip plate and now coming in above the circle as it closes in. And this zip play, I love it. The reason being, the fact that this is such an open zone here, so many teams are going to be fighting in Gibraltar bubbles and taken down. You can squeeze out placement points by just staying out of these fights.
And that's exactly what's happening on set. 2 squads going to be eliminated. Finally, they're going to get targeted. They're going to all 3 drop at the same time. So it did help them get at least 2 placement opportunities. And as I said, they're going to drop right on top of Myth and pick up 2 kills at that. Still somehow alive. The armor swap comes through for Nasky. In a great position now, they say lights on as they push with nothing but aggression towards these pills. Get a couple of good shots, and Nasky missing a few of those. He's going to want him back, takes out the R99, and connects for even more damage. Nasky, Strafe, and Dell from the zip line are going to do it. They secure a first place finish. A team that has played so consistently in each online tournament, they've made it to the finals. They finally get that first place they've been looking for. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, amazing performance towards the end, and that little decision that I was talking about beforehand. Let everyone else fight. Let everyone else do the damage, and when the bones are settled and when everyone is falling, everyone's weak, then you drop down. Then you do your damage while everyone else has been, you know, prioritized with doing everything else. So fantastic finish from them, but getting into that position's one thing, closing it out is completely another. We saw big peacekeeper shots coming in. We saw fantastic teamwork as that circle closed. So congratulations, a huge game 1 for them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know, I was actually chatting with Nasky before this tournament, and he said, man, we keep getting so close, but so far. We keep playing great in the qualifiers on Saturday, but not showing up in the finals. Watch, though, we're going to make the one adjustment that's needed, and we're going to show up here in the grand finals. He messaged me that maybe about 3 hours ago, and as you say that, they win game number 1. A huge shout out to the young man in Nasky, who's been competing since Poland. Didn't have the placement he wanted in Poland, but he's gotten better every single time. Has been playing with Strafe and Dell since online tournament number 2, and that improvement, that loyalty to their teammates has certainly shown. And Onset, talk to me a bit about that late game Pathfinder play and that zipline play. What does that mean for some of our newer viewers?
I mean, the Pathfinder is fantastic